Hi everyone, we're back for our next StreamYard edition. Today, Emily and I will be talking about the mental health strategy and the action plan and project that learners will work on as part of their apprenticeship programme. So today I'm going to be asking the lovely Emily some questions to get her advice and guidance for anyone working on this type of project so that you can get a flavour of what's included as people start building their strategy as part of the programme. So Emily, thinking about the mental health strategy that the learners on the programme will start building and working with you and the rest of the team as mentors on, what would you describe as some of the kind of key elements for people to think about when building this type of strategy?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, as part of the Workplace Mental Health Leadership Apprenticeship, they'll have this program, the program and the project that they'll have to use and form as part of their endpoint assessment. So the project really is 14 months long implementation and planning of what we would call a workplace mental health culture change action plan. So the first thing of understanding how we change culture is being able to know where we currently are with regards to the culture of our workplace. So learners will actually be working to our progression model. And our progression model helps organizations to recognize whether they're in one of four stages, but what their project will be about will be creating an action plan to get them to inspiring culture, which is the kind of blue sky, amazing, mentally healthy workplace that everybody should be trying to achieve. So there's the four stages. They're at risk. Obviously, being at risk is really problematic. If your culture is at risk, that means that the culture of your workplace may be pretty toxic. It's probably a cause of poor mental health in the workplace as well, with not very much support or awareness raising. Even kind of cultural stigma as well may be embedded into an at-risk culture. So obviously that's a place where we definitely don't want to be. So the next stage is about how do you get on track? What certain things do you need to have in your action plan to really start to move you towards becoming a mentally healthy workplace? So the action plan really is a journey. And when we've implemented these type of culture change programs with organizations, sometimes it can take up to about a year if your organization has 1,400 employees. So, it is a journey, it is a process, but all of these processes have to start with where are we at now? What are we trying to get to? And how are we going to do it? So after on track is mentally healthy. And this is a culture that definitely is brilliant. Mentally healthy workplace culture is definitely what we need to achieve. But the next stage beyond that is inspiring culture. So inspiring culture really is the bedrock of creating a mentally healthy workplace, which is very preventative around mental health caused by workplace situations. There's lots of information, guidance, trainings, ongoing support available for all employees, and all employees have access to it. Minimal amounts of stigma, policies and procedures are there to support people, and it really does have a culture that every organisation should inspire to be becoming.
Amazing. Well, that definitely sounds like what we all should be working towards as part of this program. So what would you say good looks like when you think of that inspiring culture? Because even if an organization is mentally healthy, they might still want to be stretching and challenging themselves to get to that next level. So any anything you can share with us about what good looks like, I think would help people.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things about what good looks like, the first thing springs to mind for me is that it's safe. When we begin to transform and change cultures, there is a right way to do it, and there is a safe way to do it, and there is a risky way of doing it. And one of the things that we've noticed over the past 5 years of working in the workplace mental health field is that a lot of the change has started from the bottom. So a lot of people have started with, a lot of employers have been putting in place kind of employee awareness sessions, maybe training managers, but without actually implementing the infrastructure to keep people safe. So the way I like to think about it is, if you think about you are setting up a brand new service outside in the car park. Before you put people in there, you need to make sure that their building is up, it's safe, it has infrastructure, it has the support mechanisms in place before we start putting people in there. So when we talk about safely changing the culture, we actually do it from the top down instead of the bottom up. Some of the last things that we look at putting into place are things like your employee awareness sessions, peer-to-peer support, because what should be in place first is what we would call a safety net. So a safety net to us is, one of the things that we've noticed through, again, working in this field is that when you reduce stigma, you see a rise in mental health problems, or people with mental distress, mental health problems come forward because they feel safer to do so. Now, if you started with awareness raising at the bottom level, you've got less stigma, starts to come down, more employees coming and asking for help. If you haven't trained your managers and how to support these people, you're creating a bigger problem. If you don't have things like an EAP, occupational health in place, who are you going to refer them on to other than the GPs? There's no immediate access to some of these support services, and that can actually be more damaging for somebody who has come forward and said, actually, I do need some help, and
it's
that
a very
help not be
brave
there.
thing to do, isn't it, to be able to actually take that step forward, and then if you find that the support isn't there to help you or to progress that conversation further, it'd be very demotivating for anyone else, I guess, as well, to come forward in the future.
Without a doubt. And we've seen a lot of organizations starting with mental health awareness sessions for employees and haven't even trained their managers on how to respond appropriately. The majority of managers that we come across and we speak to have never even heard of some of the basic HSE legislation around work-related stress and how to do stress risk assessments. So you're actually creating a bigger problem, not just for the person that's come forward, but then also for that manager who is now put under more pressure because they're not quite sure how they need to manage and deal with it. So when I'm talking about what good looks like safety. There is a safe way of changing culture when it comes to mental health in the workplace. And we always start from, how do we make it safe? How do we make that building safe before we put people inside of it? So some of the things that we would want to achieve around inspiring culture is not only is that those safety mechanisms in place, and not only are they reactive. I think some companies are very, very good at waiting until somebody's kind of called in sick, and then they'll do a stress risk assessment, and then somebody will be referred to occupational health. So inspiring culture is about early intervention and prevention. And after working in the mental health field and health and social care fields for about 22 years now, early intervention and prevention is exactly the same, no matter whether you're in a workplace or in a community. The earlier that we can support people and the more preventative measures that we can put in place, the better for everyone, the safer for everyone, and the more effective for speedier recovery it is as well.
Makes sense. That's brilliant. And when we think about, obviously, it's a big challenge, these topics, and we're expecting, the leaders and managers going through this program to start implementing some of this change, thinking about what their strategy and action plan will look like. Have you come across in your experience any kind of common pitfalls to watch out for when people are putting these kind of action plans in place?
I think one of the biggest pitfalls that organizations have had up until now, and I think this is one of the reasons why we designed, this first to market workplace mental health leadership diploma and apprenticeship, is because there has not been the level of support and qualification and knowledge and tools all brought into one place to help people do that. So we find that a lot of people want to do the right thing, and the majority of people want to do the right thing, but doing what may seem as I thought I was doing the right thing or the good thing isn't always the safest thing. So I do bang on about safety quite a lot, because ultimately we're talking about the impacts of people's mental health. And when you've worked in professional services for as long as I have, you kind of live by the kind of mantra of first, do no harm, do not make the situation worse for people. So we have to think about that. And this is one of the biggest pitfalls. So again, it's about, where are you starting? What are you trying to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve it? But also, how are you monitoring it all? How are you evaluating it all? And how does it become embedded? So the project that they'll engage in provides them with everything that they need to safely implement this transformational culture change program in the safest and most effective way. And the beauty of this as well is that it's a journey. These kind of action plans aren't put into place in the space of 4 weeks. They can take up to years to really truly get to inspiring culture if your organization is of a great size. But also the beauty of this qualification is we can potentially deliver this qualification to 40 senior managers, and those 40 senior managers are responsible for thousands and thousands and thousands of employees' mental health, safety and well-being. So that culture change being embedded from the top with the decision makers who can really begin to implement this stuff, it just has the power to really create transformational change, whereas over the past 5 years we haven't seen that. We haven't seen these initiatives really create transformational change where it's actually began to affect the baseline kind of statistics around mental health in the workplace. I mean, work-related stress is the highest it's ever been right now over the past 18 years since HSC started collecting data on it. And parts of our inspiring culture would be how do you very, very clearly and regularly make sure that preventative measures are in place to see those statistics actually begin to reduce.
Yeah, so and I guess it's worse at the moment. With everything that's gone on this year and post-COVID, we're all adapting, aren't we, to completely new ways of working. So I would imagine when the next data point is released, it's potentially going to be even higher, which is quite scary, really.
Exactly, and that's one of the frightening elements of it. I was talking to somebody the other day who said that what we need is new legislation to make employers pay more attention to employee mental health and well-being. And I disagree with that. I think that we have the relevant policies and procedures in place. They're just not being used properly.
And the implementation.
And one of the reasons for that is because people are not educated on how to do it. So the legislation around work-related stress says that it's an employer and manager's responsibility to do stress risk assessments to protect employees for work-related stress. Yet when you ask people if they've ever heard of that legislation or know how to do stress audits or stress risk assessments, they'll sit and shake their heads. Yet it's kind of old legislation. So we need to be able to give people the skills, the knowledge and the confidence to do this. And this is exactly what that apprenticeship does, because this isn't a 2-day course. This is a pretty intensive 14-month leadership mental health apprenticeship, and this is about transformational change in a workplace. This isn't just implementing one initiative. This is true powerful change.
Amazing. I just had one last question, because I know obviously for someone to take in all that information and then want to sign up for the program, it could potentially appear quite daunting, if you're new to leadership role, and you're then taking on a responsibility to think about the mental health of your team. And as you say, the confidence around that is really key. So what support will be available to people joining the program to help them implement this change and implement the strategy?
Yeah, so very luckily they'll have the best of both worlds because of the partnership between Our Minds Work and the Opportunity Group. So they will have expert mentoring from workplace mental health professionals who are qualified and have a lot of experience working in this field and delivering programs like this to companies. So they will have one-to-one mentoring from them, and they will also be engaged throughout all of the master classes where we support them during that journey as well. We also do reflective practice with them too, so that they can reflect on what they've tried, how it's worked, what might need changing next time. And then they'll also have an L&D coach. So they'll have a specialist in understanding how they actually make sure that their project is ready for their endpoint assessment as well. So very, very lucky. I can't imagine that there's many apprenticeships get that amount of support throughout. But another part of the support that they'll be getting is their peer-to-peer support. Yeah. So if we have the minimum of 15 managers on this apprenticeship, 15 of your senior managers on this apprenticeship, they'll be expected to work together outside of the work that we're doing with them to really start to bring their action plan together. Obviously, they will need the separate action plans as their project for their endpoint assessment, but for an organisational change, we want them to be as aligned as possible as well. So they'll also have the support from each other.
Amazing. Great opportunity for them to share best practice as well across the team. And like you say, that's the power, isn't it, of this programme? It can affect the mental health of so many people, not just the people who are a part of the programme. So, well, thank you so much, Emily. That was everything we planned to chat about today. And we'll be back in the next couple of weeks with a new instalment about the programme as well. So we'll catch up with people next time. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michaela.
Bye.
Bye.